Welcome to the Fast Leader Podcast, where we uncover the leadership life hacks that help you to experience breakout performance faster and rocket to success. And now, here's your host, customer and employee engagement expert and certified emotional intelligence practitioner, Jim Rimbach.
Call Center Coach develops and unites the next generation of call center leaders. Through our e-learning and community, individuals gain knowledge and skills in the 6 core competencies that is the blueprint that develops high-performing call center leaders. Successful supervisors do not just happen. So go to callcentercoach.com to learn more about enrollment and download your copy of the Supervisor Success Path ebook now.
Okay, Fast Leader Legion, today I'm excited because we're going to get some insights on how to leverage a wealth of experience to really serve people who have, a need, as well as needs that you may have. Emilia DiMenco was born in Marlia, Lucca, Italy, and moved to the U.S. with her family in December of 1957. Emilia, her mother, and her older brother moved to America to join her father, where he was working for the Illinois Central Railroad Company as a pipe fitter. Upon moving to the States, her family expanded with 2 younger sisters. Alongside her siblings, Emilia grew up in South suburban Blue Island, which had a small Italian community. Her parents had a great relationship, but it was a very traditional relationship. Her mother gave up her work in a paper factory in Italy when she had children, and her mother's dependence on her father inspired Emilia to pursue her independence and establish a career in finance upon graduating from DePaul. Her success led her to BMO Harris, where she spent 30 years in corporate banking before joining the Women's Business Development Center. Emilia rose through the ranks at BMO Harris, eventually being elevated to Executive Vice President in the Corporate and Commercial Bank. She also led BMO Harris's Business Women's Initiative, or Women in Business Initiative, which made it the bank of choice for many women business owners. During her time at BMO Harris, Emilia served on the WBDC's Board of Directors. She then refocused her career and joined the WBDC as Chief Operating Officer to work under its original co-presidents before transitioning to President and CEO in 2013. Since Emilia's arrival, the WBDC has dramatically expanded its direct lending program, which now offers a pool of over $3.3 million. It has also expanded its certification program in a 9-state Midwest region, opened additional offices in 5 major markets, and opened 3 additional offices in the Chicago metro region, amongst other program developments. Emilia is proud to advance the mission of the WBDC as an advocate for women and underrepresented business owners. She lives and breathes the WBDC's mission, and her hope is that one day organizations like the WBDC will, once and for all, level the playing field for women and minority business owners. Emilia currently resides in Hinsdale, Illinois. When she is not advocating for women business owners, she enjoys going to the theater and symphony, gardening, and traveling. Her favorite travel companion is her son, Bob, who graduated from Northwestern University Pritzker School of Law and is now an intellectual property associate in Chicago. Emilia DiMenco, are you ready to help us get over the hump?
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, I'm glad you're here. Now, I've given my Legion a little bit about you, but can you share what your current passion is so that we can get to know you even better?
Well, my current passion is exactly what I'm doing. You have to remember in the 70s, I was passing out leaflets for the Equal Rights Amendment. So this is at the core of who I am. So women's economic empowerment and independence financial independence is at the core of who I am.
Well, you and I had the opportunity to talk about that in a couple different ways and as you started talking, I started seeing multiple impacts for folks that really aren't designated in that, women or minority business status. I mean, it's more encompassing than that. It's more global and more holistic. And we even talked about some of the work that you were doing at BMO prior to the days of it being called customer experience, and how that is important and how you're even carrying that today. So if you can, give us a little bit of insight into that historical journey in regards to the customer experience and how it's impacting the folks that you work with today.
So what we do with women business owners is they're extremely creative and other underrepresented communities. They have great ideas, but they don't necessarily have the business and financial acumen to turn that idea into a viable, sustainable business. So what we do is we can start with, and usually, well, let me say this, usually with smaller businesses, the only way they can differentiate themselves is through customer experience. Now, that doesn't mean they're not price competitive. That doesn't mean they don't have to be innovative. But the larger companies usually provide the most operationally efficient solution, even though it might not be the best solution. And the innovative piece, it's not that all businesses don't have to be innovative, but when you think about business innovation from a perspective of everyone you're competing with, those that truly differentiate themselves on innovation are the Apples of the world. I'll even put Starbucks. They're the first to do something. The client experience piece, it is the Four Seasons model. It is the Ritz model, but it is also the small business and middle market model. And that is the point of differentiation, that smaller businesses competing with the Fortune 500 or the Fortune 1000, that has so much value, and certainly is something that corporate America buys from our women business owners. I will tell you that my own personal experience since I've been at the center, and of course we have a bias and do a lot of business with women business owners, is one of the things that happened was a technology problem that I had when I became CEO of the center. And 9 out of 10 times, when I have any issue, a PR issue, any kind of issue, a technical problem, when I go to a woman business owner, the level of service that I receive, they and their staff, these aren't small companies, but their level of customer service, which translates to a customer experience, is usually second to none. And it results in our not even entertaining talking to any other competitor when they present us with possibly a cheaper price, because there's so much value in our time, particularly if you're a smaller business, in our time, by having whatever our expectation was and however we defined it up front, having that fulfilled.
As you're talking, I start thinking about something, everybody talks about the big box stores, the big retailers and all that stuff, and how it's really hard to create a personal connection. However, when you're dealing with some of these smaller businesses, they have one possible significant advantage, and part of that could be proximity, right? I know the person down the street. I know the person, maybe even across town, and that's why I do the relationship. That's why I continue to do business. That's why I may be even paying a premium. I would also say that's maybe also why I show them a little bit of grace when they mess up.
Well, you'd be surprised. I agree with what you said, particularly about neighborhood businesses, but the biggest difference, how I would define that difference between a big box and a smaller business, has to do with the owner is involved. The owner is more intimate. So, Jim, if I'm buying services from you, let's talk about the call center piece of your business. If I am worried about how to implement a call center, and we had call centers when I was in my old job at BMO Harris, and the fact that I'm dealing with the owner, and the owner is tied more, the distance between the CEO and the person that I'm dealing with is shorter than a Fortune 500 companies. The culture, the customer service expectations, all of that connection is stronger. So, and it's even the people that work for you feel that they're part of your company. So they own what you're trying to do. So I think the biggest difference between a big box store, and a privately held company, let's say, regardless of size, is that the culture is much strong. They have the ability, because they are sometimes smaller, but I mean, they're the entrepreneur, the CEO of the company is more integrated in everything that they're doing, because they're usually the founder, right? So that is what I think delivers the intimacy, if I may, between their customers and the people representing the company.
Well, even though as you're saying that, I started even thinking about some of these larger organizations, and a lot of them have really taken out a lot of their hierarchies and are working quite differently than they had in the past. And they're trying to, invigorate, encourage, nurture, and facilitate more of this entrepreneurial type of spirit. And you're seeing, more team collaboration. You're seeing, more, unity among these types of groups, so that they're actually creating, internally that type of culture, so that hopefully the entire organization as a whole, even if it's a global organization, benefits from that. So someone that I had on the show recently, Colin Ellis, talks about having subcultures. So even if I'm a global organization, the way that the culture of my global organization is successful is really by the success of the subcultures. Well, that in itself inherently means local.
Absolutely. And I couldn't, so point one, that proves my point that the privately owned company is having success, because the larger companies are seeing that in their drive to create operational efficiency and achieve the ROIs that they were required, they lost something on that journey. And what I'm seeing that I think is quite successful is the marriage, for lack of a better word, between operating units, and it's a matrix, and geographic accountability. So it's centrally leveraged, locally rooted.
I like the way you said that. And so when I start thinking about, these particular type of organizations, and I even shared with you some of the competencies that, at the Leadership Academy that I have, the Virtual Leadership Academy, the call center coach for the frontline leaders in those contexts and environments, is, we've identified 6 core competencies. And one of them that you talk about from a service perspective that you really help a lot of people who come to you for support and services is in the area of business acumen. Now, because it's so important, and I see in my work such a gap around business acumen, I even see it in, a lot of these organizations when they're trying to work in that business unit. For example, a lot of times people say, well, why don't we just do this? But they don't understand the entire business effect and impact and all of that. I mean, it's great to try to implement something and call it innovative, but it doesn't mean we can execute it, right? It doesn't mean that it really is good for the business. So when you start talking about business acumen, what do you mean really?
So when we have to see it from the perspective of the business owner. So what does it take to build, sustain, and grow a business? So when people come in here with new ideas and they're starting out, or they're trying to bring their business to the next level, we spend a lot of time talking to them about what market research they've done. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean primary research, but who else is in this space? And are you filling a gap that's out there? And is that gap sustainable? What is the period of time where it will become obsolete? And what do you have to invest? And what do you have to do to execute that idea? So even if you have a great idea, we have to make sure that they understand every element of the business model. And, just something as simple as, we spend a lot of time, how are you going to make money? What's your profitability model? So we spend a lot of time looking at every aspect of a business from, if it's a service business, who are going to be your customers? Where is the best target for you? What do you have to do to invest and deliver? How much cash do you need month to month to fuel it? What happens if you win a contract and it has to be delivered in 30 days? If you don't have the staff, do you have contract people that you can bring in? Are there people you can align yourself with to deliver? But it really is taking the idea and looking at every component of a business. And we have a curriculum that's updated all the time. And we have a process that continues to evolve to help the business owner, because almost all the business owners we deal with do not have MBAs. They do not have MBAs, but they're smart, they're industrious, and many of them have started their companies not because they had this brilliant idea that no one was doing, but they had a need to make money to support their families, and they needed to figure out what they could do to earn money. And these women, like if you go back 20 years, some of these women and other people of color who have started these businesses, they've built hundreds of $1 million worth of businesses and are employing 1,000, 2,000 people. And it could have started in a garage. The idea could have started in a garage or around a kitchen table. Great idea, but they don't have the business and I'm going to emphasize this, financial acumen to support them. And that's and they can't hire a CFO. There's no money to hire a CFO. If they get to a point where they can hire a controller, that's a good thing. But we supplement that through our staff and through all the subject matter experts that we work with.
But so one thing that I start thinking about too as you're talking, because I'm starting to think about how, a lot of times I see, behavior, and even in myself, sometimes you can get so passionate about your particular idea that you oftentimes don't want to take the time to figure out, all of the financials and all of the things that you need from a business acumen perspective. So when I start thinking about your support and your development, how much of it, encourages people to not have the bias pitfall? Even when we started this, you started talking about, hey, we're biased, and we're all biased, right? So I might have idea bias. It's like, this idea is great, and I know people are going to want it, but however, I still got to do all of these other things. But I'm passionate. I want to get to it. I want to get it done. How do you actually manage and help people work through all of those biases?
Well, we do it through looking at the numbers. So the numbers create and, doing the forecast, and I'll explain more. The numbers are nothing more than the numeric manifestation of the idea, right? So what I do when I personally talk to a business owner and they want to tell me their great idea, or they want to show me the numbers for their great idea, what I do is I ask them to share their story. Just tell me what you're going to do. And then I look at the numbers and I look to see if the numbers jive with the story they just told me. So if they're giving me 3-year numbers and this is a new idea and they put any revenues in that first year, unless they have a contract in hand, that doesn't work for me. So, but I want to add to, yes, entrepreneurs, particularly successful entrepreneurs who have brought their business to a certain level, have confidence and courage. So, and they feel they really know their business, and they do. But you can't have them risk it all. So what we do, so there's nothing wrong with pilots. You don't have to, you could do a small pilot. But what I don't want to see is that you're building a multi-billion-dollar building, because you just won a contract from Walmart. And you know what? And 50% of your business is tied to Walmart. That is so much revenue risk. And I actually saw a $250 million company lose it all since I've been here because of overinvesting in brick and mortar when they had that kind of customer concentration. So you can, if you want to take 5% risk, 10% risk, when you start pushing 30% risk, 40% risk, when you're investing when you're 50 years old and I see you investing all of your retirement income into this idea, that's when I, try to slow down the process, because we're not saying don't do it. We're just saying you need to do a little bit more research, or maybe move forward with a little bit more caution. Do the pilot, but you don't want to risk it all.
I think to me, that makes total sense. I mean, so you're talking about varying levels of scrutiny, right?
Yes.
I'm not going to be, as scrutinous, if I'm only talking about an exposure of 5%. However, if it now becomes 25, it's like, whoa, wait a minute. There's more due diligence that's required. I need to extend, the whole discovery and the alignment and all of the analysis piece, and be more realistic about it. Even though I may have the passion, I've got to definitely tone that down a little bit and get control of that.
An example I'd like to share, which has to do with the other end, which is a startup business. When people come to us, they have a great idea, and it is a great idea, but they want to quit their job and they don't have one customer lined up. It's like, just do it on the side. Make sure it doesn't violate any employee policy, but do it on the side. I mean, the best way that I see people that are in the professions, let's say, and they want to start their own business, is what they do is they might have a core customer already lined up. And that's a great way to start a business, because then you have income. Unless you're independently wealthy, and then you could do whatever you want.
Well, and I think, and again, everything that we're talking about applies to all types of businesses, because more and more organizations are running individual business units as their own really business entity, even though they legally don't have that paperwork in place, right? So there's benefits and value in all this. Now, you talk about 3 things that you provide assistance in, and that is the technical assistance, the raising of capital, and you mentioned one other thing to me, which talks about access. Helping people get access to places and people and organizations that they otherwise wouldn't get access to. And for me, really, I boiled a lot of that down into really relationships.
That's right.
We have to leverage our network and our relationships.
So we get to know those that we serve, and we have experience with them delivering to other companies. That is, as the better we would get to know you, the better job we could do representing you and trying to open doors for you. So we do things locally in our 9-state region, as well as nationally with the Women's Business Enterprise National Council, and we facilitate introductions. And these introductions are not just with private corporations, but there are public entities. The SBA is there, the state of Illinois might be there, but there are various, we get to know the buyers through, we've been in business for 33 years. So we know the major corporations in our market. We know who certain principal decision makers are. We get to know our women business owners. We learn through those relationships what they're buying. They gain confidence in us to be able to deliver innovative solutions through the people that we meet. We facilitate those introductions. We can't close the deal, but we can facilitate an introduction that provides a warm handoff. And our credibility is at stake. We have to make sure that we know the people that we are introducing to the corporation or public entity. Because, as I said, our reputation is at stake. So the relationship that we have with the women business owners and others underrepresented communities that we serve, as well as our relationship with the corporation or the public entity, which has been developed over many, many years, is what allows us to be successful.
And I think that's an important point that everybody can take away from this, is that it's the relationships that are critical to our success, regardless of whether it's a face-to-face, down the street entity, or whether, quite frankly, it even is a big box store. It's the relationship which is the differentiator.
But what I will say to add to what you said is, when you have someone in procurement or supplier diversity, and they hire a company that isn't a Fortune 500 or Fortune 1000 company, they don't get fired if that company screws up. If they hire a smaller company and that smaller company doesn't deliver, that buyer could lose their job. So that's why trust, relationship, experience is important. And that is critical. And, a lot of business owners that are privately held and smaller come to us and say, I've met with this person at whatever company 5 times. And I know I can solve that problem for them. And they still keep sending me, wanting more information. It's because of what I've just said. They have to be extra cautious, because you, as the business owner, Jim, it might impact your profitability or your revenues, but you're not going to fire yourself, right? This person's livelihood is at stake. And that's what people have to be very, very, it's relationship and understanding the buyer's perspective and what the buyer needs.
That's a great point. Okay, so when I start thinking about all of this, it's definitely loaded with a whole lot of inspiration and emotion. And one of the things that helps us focus in the right direction on the show are quotes that our guests share with us. Is there a quote or two that you like that you can share?
Someone asked me this once, and they asked me, Emilia, do you want to win, or do you want to be right? And let me tell you what I mean by that. Sometimes it's about integrity and principle. So it is okay to walk away from business that you're not 100% sure you can deliver on. And it's okay to be very honest on what you can and can't do, even if it means you won't win in the short run. It's better to do the right thing. So it isn't, the person who I'm quoting will be anonymous, but you really have to think about that on multiple levels and in multiple situations. Sometimes it's okay not to win. It's okay not to win if you feel you're doing the right thing, because in the long run, that's where you really win.
Most definitely. And talking about doing the right thing, sometimes we don't always do that. And that's when we actually can learn, from our own experience as well as experiences from others. And we talk on the show about, times where we've gotten over the hump, where we've had that happen to us. Is there a time where you've gotten over the hump that you can share?
Yes. I was managing an area where I had all these, and in my job at BMO Harris, where I had a lot of data people reporting to me, and I had spent a lot of time looking at forecasting, doing some strategic work, and we invested an incredible amount of time segmenting customers and being able and comparing that information to market trends. And I had to deliver a message about current customers and demographic forecasts. And those two things were not aligned. And I had to tell the CEO that if for a confined market, that unless we changed our strategy, we would not only not grow with the market, but we would be growing less. Our growth rate would be significantly less than the market. And I just had to deliver that message, understanding what the consequences were. On a more personal basis, I had to make, when I was an executive vice president reporting to the CEO, I had a personal issue that I had to decide what was most important. And I had invested 20 years in my career, and I had to take a little step back because of this personal situation. And I had to be honest about it. And I made the right decision in the long run, but it was a very painful career decision at the time because I had to take a step back because of family obligations. So, I don't know if that is specific enough, but I'll give you an example of a business owner, and this is not that uncommon. That I see this all the time with business owners, where they used a strategy and talent that worked for the company to bring them to a certain level. And then for the next phase, leadership that was required was different. Not that the owner needed to be different, but the leadership he had around him had to be different. And one of the things, so they went through one of our curriculum and were counseled here, and I'll never forget in this one example, this gentleman, it was a man, said, "You mean I have to fire my mother?" And the answer is, yeah, you do. Like your sister, your brother, your child. Sometimes children are good for the business and sometimes they're not. And the hardest thing for entrepreneurs I think that businesses require different leaders at different times. Like the next leader of the WBDC will be very different than I am, because the center will need different things at that time. The average, when you look at corporate America, the average tenure of a CEO was 7 to 10 years. Today, it's 3 to 5 years. And that's because the world around us is changing so fast that you need different leadership. That doesn't mean you fire everybody. No, it means that as opportunities arise, either expanded financial resources or some internal transition, you bring in different talent. You have to constantly see, what talent do I need to get us to the next place?
That's a very good point. Okay, so talking about that, you've had your career at BMO Harris, you have your career now. When you start thinking about goals, what's one of your goals?
Well, my goal here is to dramatically expand our access to capital program. I mean, we lend money directly, we place debt and equity, but there is not enough capital for those that we serve. And becoming a community development financial institution is in our plan. And trying to find more equity partners that can help with some of the investments that our business owners have. There's no question that women and minorities have less access to capital, both debt and equity. Part of it is They need more assistance in facilitating those conversations. That's half the problem. And the other half of the problem is the products that are available aren't necessarily tailored to serving everyone in the community and to ensure that there's equity in the distribution of capital.
And the Fast Leader Legion wishes you the very best.
Now, before we move on, let's get a quick word from our sponsor. An Even Better Place to Work is an easy-to-use solution that gives you a continuous diagnostic on employee engagement along with integrated activities that will improve employee engagement and the leadership skills in everyone. Using this award-winning solution is guaranteed to create motivated, productive, and loyal employees who have great work relationships with their colleagues and your customers. To learn more about an Even Better Place to Work, visit beyondrel.com/better.
All right, here we go, Fast Leader Legion. It's time for the
Hump Day Hoedown.
Okay, Emilia, the Hump Day Hoedown is a part of our show where you give us good insights fast. So I'm going to ask you several questions, and your job is to give us robust yet rapid responses that are going to help us move onward and upward faster. Emilia DiMenco, are you ready to hoedown?
Yes.
All right. So what is holding you back from being an even better leader today?
I would say that experience is good, but sometimes it limits, unless you force yourself, it limits your ability to see something from someone else's perspective.
What is the best leadership advice you have ever received?
The best leadership advice that I have received was this. We know this, the CEO said to me, we know you have the answer. The issue is, can you get everybody there?
What is one of your secrets that you believe contributes to your success?
I believe it's courage and hard work.
What do you feel is one of your best tools that helps you lead in business or life?
I would say that it is my understanding that getting everyone to buy into the mission and the strategy to achieve that mission is critical, and empowering everyone to deliver on it.
And what is one book that you'd recommend to our Legion? It could be from any genre.
Well, trying to think. Recently, I read Hillbilly Elegy, which explains where our nation has changed and what it expects from its leadership. And I thought it was very interesting given the political environment that we're in today.
Okay, Fast Leader Legion, you can find links to that and other bonus information from today's show by going to fastleader.net/Emilia DiMenco. Okay, Emilia, this is my last Hump Day Hoedown question. Imagine you were given the opportunity to go back to the age of 25, and you can take the knowledge and skills that you have now back with you, but you can't take it all. You can only take one. So what skill or piece of knowledge would you take back with you, and why?
The skill that I would take back with me is the understanding that there is more that I don't know than what I do know.
Emilia, I had fun with you today. Can you please share with the Fast Leader Legion how they can connect with you?
Yes, at WBDC.org. And my email address, and feel free to contact me, is edimenco@wbdc.org.
Emilia DiMenco, thank you for sharing your knowledge and wisdom. The Fast Leader Legion honors you and thanks you for helping us get over the hump.
Thank you for joining me on the Fast Leader Show today. For recaps, links from every show, special offers, and access to download and subscribe, if you haven't already, head on over to fastleader.net so we can help you move onward and upward faster.